Embark on your journey, the path you must take. Though hate may surround you, it's not your fate to forsake. Co-creating your destiny in the dance of time. The guiding light within you ignites the sublime. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. In the depths of your being, the truth resides. Embrace your power, let your spirit rise. With every step forward, you transcend the expanded conscious community we commend. Through trials and triumphs, your soul evolves in the symphony of life, where every note resolves. Listen to the whispers of your inner voice. In unity and love, let your heart rejoice. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. As we gather together in this sacred space, embracing transformation with grace. Life coach Malachi leads the way in unlocking potential day by day. Embracing transformation with grace. Life coach Malachi leads the way in unlocking potential day by day.
Hey, hey, hey. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Expanded Consciousness. I'm Life Coach Malachi. We're expecting a wonderful and beautiful show this evening. This show, of course, as you would see it, it is here, the Divine Feminine Rising. We have Coach Deidre Smith with us. She has said it and put it out there that she's doing the operations for expanded consciousness as we grow, as we honestly do what Bishop said. And that he mentioned that. He said that we will grow. And you know, just because I mentioned him and I had this to play, I think we should actually click this button here. Watch this.
You don't know like I know. You can't tell it like I can. Come on, you can't tell it like I can. You can't tell it like I can. You can't tell it like I can. Come on, mama, you can help me sing some of this. Come on down, baby. me sing it, mama. I get joy when I think about joy when I think about I get joy when I think about joy when I think about joy when I think about
Woo! Isn't that funny? And so it brings back memories. It brings back memories. I really appreciate the life and the experience, the expression. I have deep conversations with just conversations with people. But I've recently had deep conversations with Miss Deidre and Miss Celeste, and we just go into just life and the life of living and being in a church, and what does it mean to be in the church, and what do we do as we move out of the church, and how do we do these things, and being able to embrace our history and be able to still enjoy part of what we do, what we have done. I don't know. I'm live on the air, and I'm getting a phone call from my daughter. Yes, I'm live. I guess she don't want to say anything. Sophia? I guess she can't hear me. She go, you know what she's asking, right? Did you cook something? Well, I did. I cooked some. There's some pork in there. Pork. There's some fajita. It's not pork. It's the Mexican word for pork. Carnitas. I even cooked some shells, some tortilla shells on a griddle. I like to cook. And I got ice cream and some chocolate chip cookies that I just baked. I took out at 8:15 before I came here with you guys. That's what I love to do. Hey, I want to get these numbers up. We got 9 people in the room, and we're going to bring Miss Deidre to the stage so that she can do her thing. I really love, this is a neat little feature that they added to StreamYard, which is I can see y'all's comments. Typically, you can't see the comments on what people are saying on the screen. Yeah, I'm getting closer and closer to this right here.
It's not how many times you pray, not just the words you say. It's not the thoughts you try to hold. It's the fire you let unfold. It's how you move.
It sounds like a slow jam, but you've got to listen to the words.
You choose to believe. You're the spark, you're the flame, you're the voice behind the name.
About you.
So let your true colors show. Only you can really know. The feeling is the secret. No matter if you believe it, go within or go without. Burn the fear is the doubt.
Divine by design. You're divine by design. It sounds like a slow jam, but listen, you are divine by design. Understand that. Understand that you are divine by design. All right, here we go. who's in the room. Let's see who's in the room real quick, and then we're gonna bring Miss Deidre up on stage. She has to have a grand entry, right? And maybe some intro music or something like that. Is that what we want to do? Well, we'll just bring her to the stage, and we're gonna bring. Let's see. No, no, no. She need. Come on. I need to get some music for Deidre's intro when she comes up on stage. It need to be fire. It need to be like. We'll bring her up to this. That's fine. Y'all put y'all's hand together and welcome Miss Deidre.
Hi, family. A whole mess.
All right. We got Miss Teresa. Hey.
Hi, Teresa.
Miss Teresa. Miss Marie. Mother Gwen. Miss Gwendolyn. Glade. Yes.
Hey.
And
There's my sib.
Miss Celeste.
Yes.
Thank y'all so much for showing up. And we're going to get this show on the road. What you think, Miss Deidre, like in terms of... we're talking about this divine feminine rising. And one of the things that I know, fade that out, is there's a lot going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot that we're dealing with, a lot that we're facing. And it's so easy to find the negative.
Very much so.
It's so easy to see what's out there that can get us down.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've been in kind of a when I was talking to Carrie on Franklin today, he said, I'm a delusionally optimistic. And now I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of interesting. I think there comes a time that you have to have some level of optimism and some level of connecting to who you are and lifting yourself up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Did you see on the Instagram that I went viral on? It's still going viral.
Yes, I did see that one. The black person here.
Yeah.
Is there a black person here?
I thought that was so hilarious. It's like, oh, the violent behavior of black, it shows it. And I'm like,
Sister was ready. Sister was ready to put the sparkly water down. He was just looking for
the violent behavior it shows in black women. And I'm like, if somebody's coming in there and they're in your face and they're doing something, and you might get a reaction based on history, based on how people feel, like you might get the reaction. But the thing is like one of the things that I embraced about it, especially, and I said something about it, which is DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity, is the fact that you have a work environment that is posed there. There's a white guy in there talking to a black lady, and it looks like they're in some like cool dialogue. Like she got her sparkling water, and then the white guy is like, this nerdy dude, like, what is he doing? Why is he saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Why is he what are you saying, chit? Like, you always send some crazy shit.
Right.
And he comes in and he says what he says. Let's see if I can just briefly.
Yeah. That'd be good to show.
Let's briefly share. Hopefully, you can see that. I don't know.
I can. Community, let us know in the comments if you can see.
If you can see that. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's going viral.
It's hilarious. My phone be blown up 47 times a second. Because people just comment like crazy. I'm like, Lord, burning burning my battery down, but I love it that it's taking fire.
Yeah. Live, laugh, love, laughed often. Diversity is beautiful. This to me was an example of some funny, beautiful diversity just because of his phrasing and words. Let's see if it, hopefully it'll play. Well, it will. Turn this on. Here we go.
What did you just say?
I said, is there a black person here?
Do you have a question?
Yeah. Is there a black person here?
Chip, why are you asking that?
Janice said there was one in here. Came to check.
There's a white person here too.
Well, I don't need one of those.
Chip, please stop what you're doing.
What's the big deal? I'm just trying to find the black person here.
Well, you found her. Okay, you got her today. Okay, let me see. Let me set my sparkling down.
Oh, here it is. Got it.
Chip, are you saying, is there a black purse in here?
Yeah. Success. I like your haircut, Linda.
Thank you, Chip.
Chip, what was
You get the part about liking the haircut?
Yeah, I do, because that's what they do, the bowl cut.
Because his hair was cut like that.
The stereotypical, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen his cut. His
Bold.
hair was cut and he had it.
Yeah.
It was bold. And that's the whole thing was like, he's showing that he's like, I like your haircut. Well, your haircut looks just like his. I went and I found his page, and his page is hilarious. He just does a bunch of little skits like that are hilarious. But anyways, to me, it just opens the door to really think about with this divine feminine and how it's something that we need. Of course, most females are the ones that are following that. Most females are the ones that follow this channel, right? And follow everything that I do. And there's something about us people, humans, if you will, and the divine feminine, just the life. I'm going to let you go and free you to connect to the divine feminine in your message, your overall message on what that is and what does it mean, or how exploring it. So you do your thing, sis. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, brother. Good evening, everybody. I see people come in because I'm normally the one doing the comments. I have the comments rolling on the screen, so I can at least keep touch with everybody's here. I see, our regular weekly viewers. Thank you. And I see some of our family, our extended family from TFC, my TFC family coming in, Miss Phyllis. Good to see you, ma'am. Listen, before I get started, I just want to acknowledge that in general, this has been a very hard week in our country. This has been a very hard week for me personally, with the loss of somebody very near and dear. It has been a very difficult week if we've been seeing everything, if we've been watching the news, and even if you haven't been watching the news, it's just been a difficult week. And so I want to hold space for it. And some of these very things that we are seeing in behaviors that we are witnessing or hearing about or reading about, is kind of why this conversation is important tonight. And so let me start there. I want to make sure that I level set for everybody that when we talk about divine feminine energy and divine masculine energy, this has zero, and I mean zero, to do with your gender. Okay? This has zero to do with your gender expression. This has everything to do with who you are when you came to this earth. Divine feminine energy and divine masculine energy are needed in every human to be balanced. And what has historically happened with the rise of patriarchal westernized thinking is that the instinctive nature of matriarchal energy, the energy that creates, the energy that brings forth, and we can talk in very literal terms. If you look at the anatomy of a biological womb man, if you look at that, the energy in and of itself is to create. And what happened in history, if you look at the cradle of civilization of Africa, Africa before colonization, before patriarchal empires like the Roman Empire came over, it was matriarchal in nature. The woman was respected and they were revered as leaders because they embodied some things: intuition and innate wisdom. It wasn't so much about the outward expression as much as the inward knowing and the inward cultivating. Divine masculine tends to be a little more outward. But I say that to say is that for all of us to be our best selves, we have to embody both energies. And we have to do it in such a way that it brings balance. There are times that I, as a Black woman, have to embody divine masculine energy a lot of times because I have had to deal with, I've had to walk into rooms where I might very well be the only woman, and certainly the only Black woman. And so then I have to embody a certain energy in that space to hear. And there are times where I've had to be very bold and very assertive, and that is often deemed as aggressive and angry Black woman. But what the real matter is that I'm naturally in touch with who I am because I am quote unquote feminine by nature. Our Western society has kind of cut out molds of how people should be raised when they are born, right? So young men, they are taught the more what you can perceive as more masculine characteristics. Girls are taught historically more feminine traits. So young men aren't tapped into their emotions. Some young men never understand their emotions. Girls are kind of molded to not to be too emotional, because they be like, oh, you always so emotional. They always come from as you're being emotional, not understanding that the very thing, our intuition that we all need, our gut instinct, our connection to our heart, our connection to our mind, being fully embodied, is the very thing that we need to survive in this world and see the humanity in each other. So I want to let you know that divine masculine and divine feminine are essential, and they're counterparts, and they work together. That is an internal spiritual matter of cultivating. That is the divine feminine and divine masculine within yourself. I'm not talking about patriarchal systems. I'm not talking about westernized thinking. I'm talking about being in touch with yourself so you can be emotional and assertive. You can be both in any situation and be your whole self. That's the difference. And a lot of people nowadays, because spirituality is a gimmick to a lot of people, like to harp on divine feminine as if this is all about feminism. No, it's not. I, as a Black woman, do not identify as a feminist. So I want to be clear. I, as a Black woman, do not identify as a feminist. Why? Because I have intersectionality. I am Black and a woman, and therefore my worldview comes from a lens of not just feminine, how women have been oppressed, but also how Black people have been oppressed. And I can't separate the two from my identity. Okay? I can't carve out my Blackness and not care about my womanness. And so what this society has done, and what we see playing out with toxic masculinity, this patriarchal, white supremacy, machismo, foolishness that we're seeing play out in this nation with this nonsense going on with manufacturing chaos when people are exercising their First Amendment rights. And I won't go too political, but I'll be political enough so you understand what I'm saying. What you see playing out with the people that are in the powers, the powers that be, is just toxic masculinity and patriarchy and white supremacy on its last gasp of air. I just want you to sit with that for a minute. What you're seeing is white supremacy, the system, in its last gasp. And white supremacy has to have patriarchy, has to have racism, has to have capitalism, and has to have women as a class as second class, third class citizens. Toxic men are not in touch with their divine feminine side because they perceive divine feminine as weak, because it's not external power that divine feminine possesses. It's not external that makes divine feminine so special. Divine feminine power is an embodiment. It is from within. It is a natural thing. It is the inner knowing of who the hell I am in every room. And I don't have to make a fuss because I embody creation. I embody life. I embody intuition. Okay? So what we see playing out is a lot of toxic masculinity. A lot of it's not even divine. It's just toxic because they're unbalanced, because they're not in touch with who they are. They dealing with all external, all external, all external, all external. They don't know their true selves. They're not embodied. Okay? So with that, I think that's why I wanted to correct the record today of what it really is. And on this journey of expanding consciousness, in this journey of your spiritual growth, the first goal, remember, I've stressed it, coaches stressed it. We're not here to make you want to follow us. We're here to help you reconnect to you so that you can be your best, most authentic self, fully embodied, not depending on somebody else to tell you who the hell you are. You don't need a pastor to tell you who you are. You don't need a prophet to tell you who you are. You don't need the news to give you statistics to make you feel like you're in a box and who you are or what your future will hold. In expanded consciousness, you create your reality in the sense of you may have dealt with these things. You may have dealt with factual things, traumatic experiences, and all these things. But who you become from that is fully within your control. That's why the divine feminine is so important. That is why the symbolism of woman is important. That is why, and I'll say one more political thing. That is why when Kamala Harris was put into the race, even in the last hour of the election cycle, there was such an excitement. Because the symbolism of what a woman potentially being a president could have done for the world just from perception alone. For the 6th centuries, at least 7 centuries, maybe even 8 centuries, that we have been dealing with patriarchal society. It has been a cycle of violence, death, historical erasure of cultures. And the cycle always continues. The cycle continues. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what divine feminine is. Let's talk about what divine masculine is. And let's talk about how we can connect to that, the divine feminine, especially in in us, because that's the shift. That's the shift that people need to be whole and balanced. We have been raised in patriarchy. We've been raised in it, but we have not been raised to embrace divine feminine qualities. We have been taught that divine feminine qualities are weakness when they are absolutely the strongest. You know how powerful it is that when you walk in a room, you're powerful just because you don't have to say all the things. You just have an embodiment of you know who you are. There are certain people, when you see them, they embody something. And when they walk, you be like, dang, it's something about them. It's because they are confident in who they are. Okay? So let's go through this really quick. Divine feminine energy is naturally grounded in intuition. And I have told you all that intuition is not all in your head, because that's what westernized thought teaches. Your intuition is in your gut. It's a 3-center location: your gut, your stomach, your heart. That's the essence of keeping you alive, in your head. And when all three are in alignment, it's powerful. Divine feminine. Divine feminine by nature is supportive. Divine feminine celebrates everybody's successes. Divine feminine doesn't try to tear down anybody. Divine feminine doesn't care what level they're on. Divine feminine energy says, I don't care if I'm at the bottom. I'm celebrating you at the top. I'm celebrating everybody. There's no competition in divine feminine energy. Groundedness. Because divine masculine energy is externalized a lot, the essence of what makes divine feminine powerful is groundedness, rootedness in who they are. Divine feminine energy is vulnerable. Divine feminine energy can present in males and females, binary, non-binary, transgender, whomever. Divine feminine can present as you being vulnerable and sharing your emotions. Divine feminine energy is receptive. It wants to hear. It wants to learn. It wants to grow. It doesn't repel knowledge because it doesn't come from the package that they think it should come from. Divine feminine energy operates automatically in authenticity. Automatically in authenticity. Off the rip. Divine feminine energy reflects. Divine feminine energy is innately strong. Does not really get shaken externally. That's the thing. There's a strength, inner strength. If you look at whether or not, it doesn't matter if a woman has been able to give birth, but if you look at the biology of a woman and the process of birth, and you transfer that to a spiritual experience, you know how much strength it takes to bring a life into the world? That's a strength you can't put into. And most women that have birthed children will tell you, I didn't even know I had it in me to do that. Right? Divine feminine energy, as you go on this spiritual journey, will have healthy boundaries and be empathetic. Their empathy is balanced and their boundaries are strong. Divine feminine energy is open, compassionate, trusting, creative. And our society will tell you that a lot of that stuff is, oh, don't be empathy. They got a whole movement now apparently about, empathy is a sin in the Christian right nationalist front. What kind of foolishness is that? Now, just as important as understanding what divine feminine is, it is just as important to understand what a wounded feminine energy would look like. Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. Wounded feminine energy. This can present in men or women, or non-binary, or transgender, or however you identify. Insecure, manipulative, needy, inauthentic, codependent, overly over emotional, meaning unregulated emotions, unregulated, and victim, like they own victimhood, a wounded feminine energy, insecure, needy, codependent, manipulative, inauthentic, overly emotional, and victim mindset. I'll tell you what wounded masculine is too, because they go together. Wounded masculine is controlling, aggressive, they withdraw, they avoid, they become toxically competitive, abusive, and unstable. And so when you look at that woundedness and how those traits just are terrible traits, that's how you know I got to where the energies that people operate in. And speaking from my own experience, I think I've shared with many of you all that elders in my family have had a great influence on my life. My grandmothers, my great aunts and uncles had a strong hand in how I was raised. My elders had a strong hand in how I was reared. Okay. And as a child, I would watch these women, Black women. Both of my grandmothers my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was single at the time. Then she found, reconnected with the love of her life. But her story before I was born was raising her two boys in the South. And it was a family affair because her brother, they all, everybody worked together. The village helped raise my dad and my uncle. But the resilience that I saw in my grandmother, the times when publicly she could have broke down, but she would never let them see her sweat in public. It was because she had to tap into divine masculine at times to make strides, knock open the doors, and then she could settle in. And oftentimes those in oppressed and marginalized communities, there'll be an imbalance, and where you'll find that many women can't tap into their divine feminine for safety reasons. Because if you fully, that's historically what has happened throughout our history, especially in this nation, is that if Black women, and I can speak from my lived experience, if Black women showed their vulnerability, then guess what would happen? They could be in harm's way. And so what we see, though, when we look at the history books, is that you'll see, like if you look at the civil rights movement, you see all the movements. What you'll see is you saw the men in front, but you also saw the women doing the work, the legwork, the structure, the backbone of these movements. And also with it being Pride Month, I don't want to take away the LGBTQIA community, especially people like Bayard Rustin, those in marginalized communities who laid framework, a backbone, so that the masculine could go out and do the work. What would it be like in this day and time if we could all do our inner shadow work and keep on working on ourselves to be our best selves and fully embrace all of divine feminine energy, divine masculine energy, and be our absolute best self all times and never apologize for it? I want to ask that question. What would that look like if we had are working on emotional maturity and we strive to be our very best, tapped in to our intuition, trusting our gut, operating in authenticity, embracing those traits of divine feminine to be our fully balanced self. Because patriarchal thinking, toxic masculinity, this patriarchal thinking that does not respect the very things that make all of us amazing human beings. It's over. Patriarchy is really old and tired, and what we see is like a last gasp. And I can even reflect on how I used to be, and and I have to be. There's times I have to switch it up. And as a child, I had to be very demonstrative and very bossy and this is the way it had to be. Because in some areas of my life, I had no control. In other areas where I needed to do things, I had to be very demonstrative, very bossy, slightly annoying. I don't like being that way. But now on this journey, I can balance them both because I'm not in the churches that I used to be where I had to fit in a certain mold because it never felt comfortable for me. I have to be able to embrace the fullness of who I am. And discounting the divine feminine is going to really mess us up. But the most important thing that we have to understand is that the traits of divine feminine and masculine, and I'll say it again because it's so important, they are not tied to gender. They're not tied to your gender identity. They're not attached, they're not even attached to your biology. It is attached to your spiritual energy, your spiritual makeup, your spiritual DNA, the very essence of who you are. And when you've been living in a westernized world who has taught you to look out and external, when you get back into your fully embodied self, when we get there, that's when you can meet these energies and start embracing them. But you got to be willing to get back to yourself. And that's the beauty of expanded consciousness. Are there any questions so far? I'm monitoring comments. I don't see too many questions, but I want to make sure if you have questions, let's, that we address those and take our time and do that. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm looking at these comments. Oh, I see something really good. Want to put it up. Hi, John. This is a wonderful comment. We are both the same in the realm of absoluteness and in the land of opposites. We are not the same. Absolute love is both man, woman, black, white. The powers that be are using the land of opposites to divide. Absolutely. Go to your heart. That is who we are. And yes, we have bodies that are different, but that is not who we really are. Pure human equals humanitarian. Absolutely. Who we are, the true essence, is an energy embodied. There's an energy that we are housing in this physical body. And if we can embrace the duality, divine feminine and divine masculine, energetically, I'm not talking about how you dress. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm not talking about how you present. I'm talking about energetically. If you can be intuitive and assertive when you need to be, intuitive and confident, grounded and purposeful. If you can be deeply present and vulnerable, if you can be logical and empathetic, if you can be compassionate, compassionate and disciplined, if you can be accountable and trusting, if you can be creative and focused, there's no You got to be all or nothing. You can be all. That's the balance. The goal in spirituality is balance. The goal in expanding consciousness is get to find yourself, not what your mama said, your daddy said, your pastor said, your brother said, your spouse said, your ex-spouse said, your boyfriend said, your girlfriend said. Who are you? Right? And then once you tap in, there you go. And I can be grounded. And if necessary, I can pop off. It just depends on the situation. But I'm not being inauthentic to who I am. I don't have to be demure because I'm a woman. The most powerful people, some of the most powerful people I've have tapped into both who they are. And in the age of the toxic masculinities, like we see with the man who's in 1600, there are people men who embody stuff, and they get called all kinds of not very nice things because they are in touch with who they are and they respect feminine energy. Right? That's absolute foolishness. And that's why we got problems like we do now in this country. Okay? So, the importance of divine feminine energy in this climate primarily is driven because of empathy. If I can be a balanced human, a balanced spirit, if I can be an embodied spirit, if I can operate in my authenticity, which is a divine feminine trait, then I can see our people in Los Angeles fighting and protesting on their own land. Historically, that's their land. Those that are holding up the Mexican flag in Los Angeles right now, they're fighting on their own land. I don't have to be of Mexican descent or Mexican ethnicity to understand and say that's a human being. I can look at what's happening in Gaza, and I don't care what the religious arguments are. They're foolish. Those are human beings. And no human being should starve. And no human being should be without shelter and water and access to medicine. I can look here in this country, and parents should not be getting stripped from their children at the graduation party because their child was born here, but the parent wasn't. And the people that are carrying out these things, their forefathers and foremothers just came over here in Ellis Island 1920, and we've been here. But when you're not tapped in your divine feminine, you don't have empathy and you can't see the human condition in those that are being targeted right now throughout the world. Now, I don't care what your political persuasion is. I just want you to have empathy. That's a divine feminine trait. Empathy isn't sympathy. Empathy is saying, I may not have experienced what you experienced, but I can still myself and put myself in your shoes and see it from your perspective. And even if we don't agree, I have boundaries, and there's certain things that are non-negotiable for me. All humans should be treated like humans. Good, bad, and different. And anybody who's against that, I'm going to have a problem with. And that's okay. Because that's where I stand. in this chaos that we've dealt with, this chaos that we're seeing, a lot of this manufactured chaos, it's hard to remain grounded. But a strong trait of divine feminine is the need and desire to stay rooted and grounded so that you don't lose connection with creation. After all, feminine energy is one that creates. And the goal of the chaos is to rip you apart, rip you from the essence of creation. Does that make sense? The chaos in this world and the chaos with these systems is meant to disconnect you from creation. Feminine energy is creative. So if you give into the chaos, you are literally denying yourself the very thing, the very essence of your nature, connectedness to creation, humanity. What is creation? Creation is humanity. Creation are the plants. Creation is the air. Creation is the water. Creation is everything that we are surrounded by day that we didn't manufacture ourselves. Things that were here and that give us life. But this masculine energy, this toxic masculine energy that's out here now wants to rip us, keep us out here trying to compete, thinking, the US is better than China, China's better than Russia, Russia's better than Russia's trying to get Ukraine, Ukraine's trying to get Russia. And at the end of the day, these people that are making these decisions aren't seeing themselves as human beings. All they see is a power play. Because they're drowning in competitiveness rather than their own empathy. Most of them don't have empathy because they're narcissists, but that's a different story for a different day. We'll come back later to that. How do we connect to the divine feminine, strengthen the divine feminine, how to embody the divine feminine in the midst of all this? And there's really just two simple things that will keep you locked into divine feminine. Grounding, like I said, grounding practices, staying grounded, staying rooted. You do that through meditations. You can do that through going outside and touching some grass. You can do that by going outside, hugging a tree. You could do that just by simply going outside, sitting in the sun. You can do that by going outside and taking a swim if the water's, safe. There's a lot of ways to ground, and there's guided meditations that can help you stay grounded. There are exercises that help you stay grounded. Tapping can help ground you when you're feeling triggered or you're feeling like all the chaos and the negative energy. And the other thing that will keep you grounded into your feminine energy is intuition. Full intuition, not just the headspace intuition, which is a lot of what we are taught in school, get very heady about our intuition. Intuition is again our head, our heart, our gut. Miss Marie asked the great question just now. What are good qualities of masculine energy? I'm happy to go over them. Good qualities of masculine energy: deeply present. They don't judge. They're supportive. They have discipline. They are focused, logical, confident, protective. They are honest, accountable, have integrity. They're humble. Similar to divine feminine, they have healthy boundaries. They offer stability, security, and they're responsible. Those are all good things. That's why I say we embody a lot of people can embody divine masculine. They don't embody divine feminine because they've been taught that feminine traits, feminine energy is weak? That's a great question. And in the Patreon community, I will put up a resource where you can go back and revisit and get like a visual of the two energies to make it easy for you, because I know I'm talking. So I'll make sure we have a graphic so that you all can see it visually too. The key is not to have one over here and one over here. Don't have divine feminine over here, divine masculine over here, and they're not in relationship with each other. The key to this, as you get closer into your full self, is as you keep growing and doing that shadow work, they just meld together. And they work interchangeably in various situations. One might be more present than the other. And that's how you're operating in harmony within yourself in a very authentic way. That was a great question, Miss Marie. Thank you. And then let me make sure I'm going over almost make sure I'm covering everything that Coach wanted me to cover. Let's see here. Let me go through here real quick. I see him on the side backstage just kind of observing. This feminine energy that is rising on this planet, where you see, like after the election, Black women were like, we're good. Y'all come see us in 4 years. We're resting because this game here in America is not healthy for us. Oh, excellent point, Sib. The key about divine masculine and the traits that I gave, which are wonderful traits, absolutely wonderful traits. Divine masculine is not about domination or conquering everything. It's about divine direction. And it's a huge difference. You want to know some people might disagree, but I'm going to give you an example of somebody I think that taps into more their divine masculine energy. And I think now that they're not in the position that they used to be in, they embody it more. Former President Barack Obama. You look at the dynamic between him and his relationship with Michelle. President Obama was the president of the United States, and he always let Michelle shine. Because he understands that the two together are better than one. Secure men will let women shine. Secure men who have tapped into their own feminine energy will be vulnerable, will show emotion, will be empathetic, will hold space for people. One of the things that made President Obama, even if you didn't agree with his policies, one of the things that made Obama resonate was that he could connect with the human experience, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, there were things that I didn't agree with, but when we faced tragedies like school shootings and stuff, it was something about his presence when he connected and he looked at somebody in the eye. People felt connection. Whether or not you like his politics, I'm not here to argue all that. All I'm saying is that watch how somebody like that with that kind of power treated his spouse while in office, and how he honors her the same way, even out of office. That's a secure, healthy person, actualized. You want to look at somebody who's powerful of divine feminine? You could look at Michelle Obama. Michelle did all the stuff they asked her to do when she was in the White House. When she got out the White House, she was just like, I'm Michelle Robinson Obama. This is it. You like it or you don't. I don't really care. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to show up as myself. And if y'all want me at a public event, I don't have to go. And I don't care what you say about it. Because I'm not faking the funk. I don't have to. There's nothing in it for me. It's not good for me. I'm not being authentic if I show up in places where people wanted and wished harm on my loved ones and me. Why would I do that? So those are good, like universal examples that most people like know. And if you didn't like their politics, you could still say, you know what, there she's kind of right there. And even if you don't agree with me, that's okay too. But in this current climate that we're in, there's a desperate need for humanity to connect to their divine feminine side. And honestly, there's probably a strong need for female leaders to rise in ranks in various places throughout the world, not just the country, because of those traits that we inherently have and that we've embodied and we've had to. Because we've seen what the results of all of this masculine toxic energy has caused in this world. We just have chaos and wars everywhere, manufactured chaos and manufactured wars, harm, hurt, disease, and sickness, and it can be overwhelming. But if you look at the situation, let's look at the situation of COVID. I think of the example of New Zealand. I think it was New Zealand. The New Zealand president, when COVID first kind of, made the first global spin, the president of New Zealand at the time, she said, this is the quarantine. This is what we're doing. We did it. And I mean, their numbers were minuscule. And nobody argued with her. Nobody said she didn't know what she was doing. Nobody said this. And you look at the countries who were like, nah, we're not listening to that science. We're not listening to that data. We're not going to listen to anybody's intuition. We're not going to be responsible. We're not going to be, worried about making sure that people are safe and secure. All positive masculine traits. When people didn't go with the empathy of the situation, when people didn't go with the safety and security of the greater people, when they didn't deal with the logical facts of the pandemic, you saw the detrimental results. That's a good way to say it. Intertwine, almost like, so Celeste is saying they don't merge, they kind of intertwine. So yeah, my little thing when I was like this, it didn't really show how they was all this. But yeah, I think my visual that just popped up in my head is almost like DNA. So you think about the DNA strand, you see that if you think about it, when I say spiritual DNA, you can kind of look at the masculine and feminine, they intertwine. It's unified. Each just has its form. It's distinct yet deeply connected. Balance doesn't erase difference. It honors it. And that's the key. And that's why the authentic self is so important, because when you're rooted in yourself and you're secure in yourself, then you want everyone to elevate and you don't worry about what somebody else is doing and you don't really care what other people are doing. And you cheer on everybody no matter where you are in your journey in life, and you move forward. That's what a healed person, an authentic person does, and when they don't operate out of a wounded space. The shadow work as we know it, or the inner work as some people call it, or dealing with the dark night of the soul, usually isn't a one-time process, everybody. If you are going to go on this journey, there will be many iterations of you learning deeper truths about yourself, where you've got to do the work. And that is why this space is so important. This is a very practical example. And I have to say, I do love when I see these kind of videos. Girl dads are great examples of feminine energy in a male. Yeah, I think it's just, especially in societal ways, I could see how that could be seen as an example of feminine energy. Because a lot of times in our society, it's been the women are just supposed to take care of the kids and it's not a man's job. And I think girl dads are kind of that example. Doing their hair, painting their nails, sitting down and doing tea time or whatever the girls want to do. I think that's important because it shows that the father understands why they're there. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's a very nice practical example. And so in this time, we really need female leaders, and emotionally mature male leaders who have embraced and honored divine feminine, who have developed their relationship with divine feminine and embraced divine feminine and respected in others to take the helm of these things of all types of facets, whether it's in corporate America, the ranks of government. We need it everywhere because we need the balance to heal, to heal the country and the world. Healing from masculine dominant programming. Well, I have to say, that's a good question. I have to say, I probably was always a little different. So I'll give you a story. When I was 5 years old, it was a Christmas party at my house. All the family was over. And my grandmother had a boyfriend at the time. My grandmother was kind of sickly, had been dealing with cardiac issues for a while. And I was her only grandchild, and I'm super protective of my grandmother. And, everybody had a little too much eggnog. You know how it goes, a little too much eggnog, a little too much fruitcake, whatever they were eating, and people, when they start drinking a little too much eggnog, they get a little emotional. People get a little, And somebody was speaking to my grandmother, just like literally just saying, "Hi, ma'am, how are you doing?" And her friend got jealous and started yelling at my grandmother. And I saw my grandmother's lips start to turn blue, like she was losing oxygen. So I could tell she was upset. And I was 5. And I went in my room, saw my grandmother was upset. And I was like, I'm not going to let anybody, hurt my grandmother. I went into my closet and I got out my umbrella, long umbrella, those clear umbrellas we used to have, long clear umbrellas with the little decorations and, could have Hello Kitty or something on it. Anyway, I came back out and I started swinging. I was 5 and I came out swinging at my grandmother's friend at the time. And no one stopped me. So when you when you say healing from masculine dominant programming, I came into this earth saying no man is going to treat anybody like poorly around me because I'm gonna start swinging. Now, I should have put a disclaimer: I do not condone violence, but I came out at 5 swinging, and that will go down as a great moment in my family's history. But so I really was kind of like that kid who was like, you can't tell me what I can and can't do. I just had that innately in me, and I would wear people out if they told me I couldn't do something. I would do it just to prove I could. So, but if I could help people understand how to heal from masculine dominant programming, we have grown up in society where male leadership was pushed. Women in this country didn't even have the right to have their own bank account, own property, or anything until 1974. And I was born in 1977. So I was born just at the precipice of women getting their rights and Roe v. Wade, but now we don't even have that, like to get their rights and full autonomy of themselves. And now we're taking back steps. I think one of the most important ways that we can heal from that masculine dominant programming, again, is embodying your full self, getting to know you all over again and loving you and healing you and getting back to not asking everybody else for permission about what you can do, but checking in with yourself. Does it feel right? Does it feel right to me? Is it going to harm me or harm anybody? Having a healthy relationship with yourself, healing oneself, will always help you heal from dangerous programming in society that will train you to not trust yourself, male or female, whatever the narrative is that's being pushed out. Coach is over here. He's backstage, guys, and I'm just going to tell you he's backstage, and I think he's having a little too much fun because he doesn't have to do all the teaching tonight. But for this part, he might want to come back on because he might want to interview me for this part. We'll see. It's my personal journey into wholeness and leadership. Hi. See, I was trying to make sure he was staying on point. See? Make sure he was staying on point. He probably sitting back, sipping on something. What you sipping on?
Actually, it's some prebiotic drink. It's one of those poppy drinks.
Okay. I thought I'd bring you in and see if you had any questions, comments before we get into the latter part of the discussion.
Well, you've been doing a lot of work. You got your deconstructing that you've done, but you also were in ministry at one time with, I guess, at the Pace family, and which was a big. You've experienced a lot of the energies of, as we talk about masculinity and femininity, moving into the African spiritual world or African spirituality, learning some of that history and some of the modality, understanding and learning some of the things we've been through. What would you say in how you feel now, in terms of being, you know, you have the divine feminine and understanding what does that truly mean? Because you mentioned earlier also that it wasn't about gender. How can one person, a person, given the fact of all of the things happen within the dual world, you know, men doing this, men doing that, narcissistic, hardcore energy, how can one embrace who they are? How would you say, how have you embraced yourself in terms of your own feminine energy and learning to love yourself, learning to set boundaries? Like, what have you done to really elevate to this point? Because you had this in you to be on live and to be talking and to, you know, you've had this in you, but now you are fully embracing it. So what have you done? What has happened to you in this space as you embrace your own divine feminine energy? Hey, I just felt a quickening.
Yes. There's a couple of things that have happened. There are a couple of things that have happened in my life, like significant shifts. And I was always a natural leader. As a child, I always was a natural leader, right? That was always kind of a thing. I went to hi brother Carl, good to see you. So there were certain things about me that were naturally in me as a leader. So I had natural leadership traits, and that didn't always lend itself to being very vulnerable at the time that I was growing up and developing in the 90s with those type of skills. At least so I thought. My examples in leadership were my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. She was activist driven, civically engaged, politically engaged, socially engaged, would take me to city council meetings and lay me on the back bench while she testified. So having a voice was always something that was instilled in me. But there was always still, but don't be careful now. Don't do too much. And for me, I felt like if I can't tell the whole truth, then why am I doing this? So the first journey to me being my fullness, believe it or not, was me becoming a Christian minister. And I'll tell you why. Because people, family, people in ministry really didn't know me like they thought they knew me. Because I didn't really have a voice around them. And they didn't know what was brewing, what I've studying and reading and just contemplating. Like I was a person in those settings around family and everything and around church where I didn't say too much. This is when I was still here in Maryland before I went to college. I didn't say too much. I just sat back and observed a lot, taking it all in and everything. So that when I got to Atlanta, I attended Spelman College, and Spelman doesn't, I will say this, Spelman is one of the most renowned colleges in the nation and in the world for Black women, obviously, right? People have the misnomer that Spelman makes you into these world-changing women. And the reality is the women that go to Spelman already have it in them. Spelman provides the environment for you to bloom and blossom. And it's where I found my voice. And so when I preached my initial sermon in 1997, I've been doing this a while. The people at the church were like, the pastor at the time, he literally almost fell out his chair because he was like, this girl been sitting here in the back seat of this church the whole time for like a year and a half, and she ain't said nothing but hi and bye for all this time, and she get up here and just wrecked us. That was the first shift where I found my voice. But there were always
What made
questions.
you?
Go
What
ahead.
made you feel? What is it that made you feel like, you know what? I'm stepping and moving into this place. Okay, so that was the first place you found
Yeah.
your voice.
And I didn't
What-
have to hide. Yeah, where I felt like I didn't have to hide part of me.
So fast forward, you're in DC area, Columbia. Now where you are today, right?
Mhm.
Let's move forward and let's go to where you are today. In perspective of this, thinking of people that are watching this, because some people want to move and go into their divine self, their divine, and tap and tune into that divine feminine. You talked about it earlier. You hit on some things. But what is it that you have done or do today, right? As you move into this space, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Of course, I know you've picked up some of your been doing some African spirituality, which has probably helped with connecting you to things that you are connected to. You know, what is the saying? What you want wants you.
Mhm.
So, how do you see that the divine feminine inside you today? What was I forgot what was the main thing. It was like
How
divine,
kind of the journey to it. So
yeah, feminine rising.
yeah, so what I had to do once I left the church, um, and still have the questions that I have and connected humanity, I started examining all relationships that I had, every single relationship I had, and to see what the purpose of the relationship was. Was it to drain my energy? Was it to keep me in a box? Was it to help me be my best self? Was it to just be a support? Like, what was it? And as I slowly started cutting off dead weight, whether it be friends, family, or relationships, I kept finding myself more and more, right? And as I found myself more and more, then when I wanted to ask more questions about what were my ancestors practicing before colonizing Christianity came, I didn't feel the need to pick up the phone and call nobody and ask them their opinion. I didn't need somebody's opinion on that. I didn't need to check in with somebody to see, is that okay for me to ask? Because the more I cut off the dead weight, the more I found me. And I found the answers. And so I would say you always do an inventory of those around you. Listen, everybody doesn't agree with my spiritual journey. Okay. I come from a long line of people that get church going folks. Okay. Very church going people. One side of my family got a whole family church that's been in existence since 1865. Okay. My ancestors is laying, got a whole cemetery with the church right there. We is some churching folks. Okay. And when I go back in those spaces, I will always honor that. I will never discount that journey. So some people don't understand my journey, but I didn't throw it all away. I just realized that to heal some of this stuff that we've been dealing with as a family, as a community, as an individual, how I healed is I had to tap back into what everybody was doing before we came over this water. I needed it for me. I needed it for me. So that didn't require me to check in with mama, uncles, and them, or anybody else. And people will be like, oh, you left God? Absolutely didn't. Never left God. I'll say that till the day I die. I have never left God. Actually, I found God in a much better, a broader way. Because how could it be that it wasn't until we got over here on the waters that we found God? What sustained our ancestors to get over here across the water? Good old-fashioned luck. We need to ask these questions because the story doesn't make sense. Now, I ain't going to take nobody's Jesus away, okay? I love me some Jesus. That's where I started. You ain't going to, listen, you ain't going to take no Jesus from me now. But y'all ain't telling the whole story about Christ. That's all I'm saying. Christ consciousness existed before the story of Jesus, the Christ, came. And so this is where that was how I got the healing. So the people that know me know I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm not going to ask permission. I'm going to be myself.
I love it.
Online, on the phone, on text. What you see is what you get.
You know, divine feminine, throughout my research and just out my connection to when we just look at gender side of feminine. Although I think that the non-gender side of the feminine is still within the male, right?
Absolutely.
No, just as the other way happens with female, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think women can have levels of masculinity that men can't share the same amount of the equal amount because women can have boys. But even outside of that, the divine feminine is it's really deeply attuning in, right? It's not hard or soft. It's just being able to tune in to and the unseen side of yourself.
Right.
And you talked about that, you know, without asking permission. Yes, being able to listen. You know, what the bishop used to say, from the womb to the tomb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the energy of love, the energy of peace, the energy of acceptance, right? And being able to begin to start the path and to be on the path that you feel that you are connected to. And one of the things you wanted to connect connect to was your roots and some
Yeah.
of the roots, and that's part of your path, part of your journey. And I think for everyone tonight, what they really want to question and what they want to do is, the womb is kind of like, um and you think about rebirthing, and it's like you begin as a physical thing over time in the womb of a woman,
Mm-hmm.
all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And there was safety,
Yes.
right? There was compassion and love, like, because you could not get away from it necessarily,
Mm-mm.
although you could deeply be affected by what's going on in the outside world.
Right.
And so, one of the things I would like for us to do, and as we are here, is for us to journey into the womb of ourselves, right? Of our sacred space,
Mm.
going back and getting into a space of connecting to our higher self, regardless of the path, regardless of the journey, regardless of what you have experienced and are experiencing.
Yeah.
But what I hear you say is, through your journey, it's like you're getting back. You're going and it's like you're, as I used to say, you're pregnant with something,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're birthing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would say, like, are we as a species, and are we as, especially in America, are we experiencing something that is forcing us to get back to love, get back to to unity, right? To get back to, and even not even back to, actually going into,
That part.
we can't go
That
back,
part.
but how can we go into this new, right, realm,
Yeah.
right? We're being pushed into this realm of of the womb, and going into this space, right?
Yep.
Vulnerability. That's probably one of the biggest things whenever I think about the divineness of the energy and femininity, is
Yeah.
is just the going from that male, masculine, rather, doing, dominating, proving, the $20 million yacht guy is sitting back looking at the guy with the 200 million yacht, and just worried about going from that to that, when the divine feminine is like a cosmic correction, balancing
You
the system.
balancing the energy. I would agree. I think I don't know if I mentioned this to you the other day, or if I was talking to Celeste, but there have been, in my lifetime, there have been some significant shifts here in the consciousness of our world. And it used to happen once a generation. What I've observed in my life, I'm just talking about my lifetime, that it used to be my lifetime and maybe my mom's lifetime, going back, that it used to be once a generation. And now we are having it like once every 2 years. There's like a big jolt, events, things that trigger consciousness. So World War II, okay? World War II, 41, 45, you got Hitler and the Third Reich, and you got that whole thing, and it was a whole shift in consciousness where you have people around the world like, absolutely not, the world rises up to defend against Germany, right? The next shift, the Vietnam War. My father actively protested against the Vietnam War. A lot of my family members had to be drafted into the war, but there was a consciousness shift And it started with the young people, the college students. This isn't right. Why are y'all doing this? Why are y'all showing us this? What are you doing? Another shift. Then the next shift, 9/11. America's vulnerable now because in World War II, well, Vietnam, America wasn't popular, but 2001 showed that America's soil was vulnerable, like the larger soil. But the other thing it showed is that America's consequences were coming home to roost. And so there was another shift. Now we're having, then there's like the column. Well, there was Columbine in 99. There was 9/11. Now we're having, then we went like another 15, 20 years. 2020 happened, pandemic, George Floyd. Another global shift. It forced people to stay home. The pandemic forced us to stay home, deal with ourselves, sit in silence, not have a job, try to figure it out. And Sasha always comes right on time. Here comes Sasha, right on time. Another shift where we had to face ourselves, right? Face ourselves. And the facing of ourselves is something most people weren't ready to do. But shout out to Gen Z, the technological kids, because they're like, we got our phones. And we're going to show you even if you don't want to see you. That died off. DEI, all that died off. Then October 7th happened. And they tried to spin one narrative. And Gen Z said, but the video is showing something different. Y'all can't fool us now. What are y'all? This is humanity. What's wrong with you? And guess where we are now? We're in another shift. Because we're seeing things play out. And we're like, where's the empathy? Where are you seeing humanity? Why are people not rising? I'm seeing a lot of people, but it's not enough. It's coming together. But it forces us to have to be like, you know what? This really isn't getting us where we thought we were going to get it. We need to do something different. We need to care about one another. Everything's high, expensive. People can't afford things. People going hungry. Well, we can care about people here in America, and we can care about people over in Gaza. We can care about people, we can care about whomever. And so these political shifts that have happened have forced people to look at things differently. And I would say the shift of, I forgot the civil rights movement, not because it's negligible, but because that was an entire span of a movement, and it bled into the Vietnam War with people speaking out against the war and the equity fights here within the country that caused the 60s, where we literally saw assassination of leaders. And yet white supremacy is still trying to hold on. And so in white supremacy and patriarchy rejects divine feminine qualities. So here we are now in 2025. And now they're making, now you've got a right-wing government saying that empathy is a sin. One of the very essences of divine feminine energy. They're saying, no, that's a sin.
It's not going to work. I mean, it's just not going to work. It's just they're doing anything and everything possible, and it's more of an energy. And
that's why I said it's like a last gas. It's kind of it really is like a last gas.
Yeah, and it's almost like within that energy. I'm sorry, but I can't even give most people within the space I can't give them the space of saying that they're so tapped in and tuned in with what they have going on. And I think most of what it is a lot of is instinctual, and the old system dying, dealing with the hierarchy, the hustle. And this goes through both parties. And we wouldn't have what we have today if it wasn't for the Democratic Party to a degree, dealing with its bureaucracy of the system. And all of it is crumbling. It's all
Correct.
crumbling. And this next era, intuitive leadership, emotional fluency,
Instant.
you know,
Yep.
a sacredness that that is going to take place. Because I've been spending a little time at this former monastery, and we call it, and I say former because it's no longer a monastery, it's an interfaith space for us to have sacred rest, sacred connection, and the creativity and the energy in which we have today that's moving us, forcing us. And it's still yet, I believe, going to, although the feminine energy, the divine feminine, is not necessarily about the genders at a
Right.
over hierarchy, like this is
Yes.
about the feminine, but there
Yes.
is a connection
Absolutely.
to the actual feminine, right? That is taking place, a rebirth or a birthing, Mother Earth, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a birthing of things that are taking place. It's amazing too that you see at one time you see something that you would probably never think that you would see with the current administration and what they're doing in California, but at the same time we see a birth of a technology that is they're using,
Mm-hmm.
but we all have access to use that same technology in
Mm-hmm.
order to circumvent, or in order to gain momentum ourselves, in order to learn ourselves, in order to actually search for ourselves and get a reasonable understanding. I believe that, and I know that we can have one of the greatest expressions during this transition, and it's a multifaceted transition. But I think this part of the transition is bigger. You know how we have tragedy and we have incidents where you have wars, you have various wars that would take place.
Yeah.
You got civil rights and slavery, and then
Yeah.
as far as slavery being abolished, all those are very huge, um, huge events, eras, right? That happens within the human
Yes.
species, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we can look back as humans from whatever era in time, look back, and we can say, wow, this is how humans have or haven't improved.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look right now, the reason why you want to destroy the books and destroy evidence and make sure that human beings can't reflect on where we've been, where we've come, based on the fact that I don't want you to be able to research and reflect on your information. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a little late unless you scrub the internet, and the internet is just not that way. It's not going to completely let you just completely wipe out the information. So this information is widely available to us. I say all that to say that within expanded consciousness, there's something birthing within us, and you're going to have to choose.
Absolutely.
And if you're watching us, I believe you've already made the choice. And that is to be a part of the evolution, the revolution, the elevation, and the destruction of the old,
Mm-hmm.
moving into this era, this new. This transition of this era is, promise you, is not like any other era, because of the fact that we're starting to move into understanding deeper connections to our existence through consciousness.
Right.
And you have people, like everyday people, that can tap in, tune in, and learn how to shift who they are. Learn how to shift to a divine conscious space and connecting to the divine feminine. No time better than now. You can get online and you can see things. And one of the things, I had just had a post from a neuroscientist, and she said, just as you can watch positive things, good things, and neuroplasticity, the brain basically will rewire itself, right? And one of the things that, if the people that they want us to be very ignorant, not cognizant, and not understand that we can shift who we are.
Correct.
Not understand that we can shift who we are, and that we can begin to, and we have already begun, we could begin to walk into and move into a space through the powers of our awareness of who we are.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
That's one of the reasons why growing up here in the DC area, it was literally a requirement for us at school coming every day with current events. So we had to read the newspaper, had to watch the news. That was literally a part of my life, and I was wired that way. But as I've been on my journey, I have consciously disconnected from watching network news, cable news, and people that know my feed, they're probably like, dang, she don't watch no news, but she stays informed. I know how to get my information. I grew up going to a library with the Dewey Decimal System and going to the library with microfiche. The one thing I know how to do, because I'm a product of Gen X, is I know how to research and I know how to find credible sources of information. And therefore, I get the information I need to share with what I feel is important, but I don't I do not sit here and watch the news cycle, because the news cycle is meant to almost numb you and desensitize you, or
Yes.
keep your nervous system completely dysregulated so that you don't know what to do.
Balance is key. I mean, honestly, you around me, balance is key.
Yeah.
Balance is key. So as far as, if a person's connected to it, there's people that work in it. You know what I mean? There's people
Yeah.
that are in, first responders.
I mean, I have reliable sources that, I don't have to watch it breaking news cycle. I don't have to do that. I know who I can contact if I need to verify something. Because of the activist work I do, I have information. I get information. That's all I'm gonna say, because I'm
Well,
an
do
activist too.
do you meditate?
I meditate, of course I do. I meditate every morning and I meditate every night.
So that's balancing. So it's really about the information and balancing the brain,
Yes.
balancing. Because even if it's something that's necessary, like if you're a paramedic, you're an officer, right? They the who is it, military. So the reason why you have a debriefing,
Yes.
and they're finding out that if you play, literally read something that if they play Tetris right after an interest,
Yes.
it will do the synapses. And so as long as you are finding some level of balance in your life and making sure that, okay, I have this, I'm reading this, but how do I have that sacred moment?
Yeah, I'm intentional. Yes, I'm extremely intentional about that. If I don't start my day with that guided meditation, with that honoring of my sacred space, my honoring of my own self, my day isn't right. I've had to deal with an immense tragedy this week. And I had to say, for my full-time job, I'm the director of operations for Expanded Conscience, but I got a full-time job as a nonprofit leader. And I said, okay, I'll see y'all in a week, maybe two. I had to do it for my mental health, but at the same time, I still needed information because of the tragedy, right? So I had to figure out how to balance that, take care of myself, make sure I'm eating, like the practical things. I still have to be my best self. I am 48 years old, and many times in I feel almost like it's lives prior, I would just keep pushing through traumas, bad news, bad situations, totally disengaged from me. And now that I am worked to embody myself, I can't ignore the fatigue, the emotional fatigue, the and just seeing this stuff for what it is, a manufactured chaos to keep us off balance.
Mm.
It's
So
not easy, but it's necessary if you don't want to end up on 75 prescriptions because you can't regulate your nervous system on your own.
a lot of people can't balance, and it's just they try to, and it's hard for them to balance, right? And it's different, especially if you're in the space or in the business. But and some people need a little extra help
Yeah.
in the
And
the
that's okay.
the balance, right? And so, as you mentioned it before, meditation is a real big one.
Yes.
As we um, wrap up, I would like for you to search for a reading or something from your African spirituality that is open, that you can share to everyone. And while she finds that,
Okay.
I would like for all of us here, as we talk about these things, is to everyone to take a breath and realize and see the breath, feel the breath. And one of the things that I've been really digging and I really felt when I went to the forest is sacredness, holding things sacred, being sacred, having something sacred outside of how we would consider the church. Because a lot of the things we didn't hold necessarily, some things we hold sacred, but it was really more of a fear. And I think one of the things that we all miss, when you go to a wedding, when you go to a funeral, we do these things in honor of people. We do these things in honor of something that's stamped in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to take a moment within the expanded conscious community, understanding I know that Bishop was one the biggest proponent in me continuing on the show. And so I want to just understand when we hold something sacred, it means that we're going to have deep honor and respect and reserve for something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It could have a moral significance. It can, we look at, Juneteenth is about to come up. And of course, we do a lot of celebrating the fact that, to me, it's honoring the people that went through, giving us a time to actually be able to connect, right, to each other and to this moment. And so,
Mm-hmm. I've got something. Yeah.
good. She has something, but I know some of us can cling on to fear, and we can cling on to our identities. We can cling on to the traumas that we have had. But I would like for us to just take this moment, and Deidre has something to read, and I want everyone here in the sound of my voice to be able to stop what you're doing if you can, and let's just take this moment to hear what Miss Deidre has for us.
Okay.
And hold your heart and breathe.
Okay. Thanks to the owner of the invisible realm. Praise to the creator who we praise first. I wake today and I behold the four corners of the world. And now that I'm waking up, I give respect to the realm of the ancestors. Let all good things come to me. Inner spirit, give me life. I shall never die. Let all things come to me. And may it be so. Inner spirit, guide me. Inner spirit, support my abundance. Inner spirit, support my future. Inner spirit, support my relationships. Inner spirit, protect my house. Inner spirit, guide me. Protector of the children, my inner character is thankful, and may it be so. Spirit of destiny, I am greeting you. Wisdom of nature, I am greeting you. The parent of our people, I am greeting you. The light that precedes appeasement, Spirit of destiny, relieve me of my obligation. Let it be so. And this is an example of something I would read to myself every day, just to center myself and honor all realms of creation, ancestors, in this third realm. I would normally say it in the native tongue, but for the benefit of everybody, I'll write it in English. And usually I'll do it on a loop. I'll have music and I'll do it on a loop. So the other one I'll say is...
Say the other one in the native tongue.
Oh, dear Lord. That one might be... That's kind of hard. If I can't... maybe not. I will say this. When I'm speaking to my impungos, I'll tell them, Buenas noches, mi lemba. Good evening. I usually speak to them at night because they dwell at night. Buenas noches, mi lemba. Hello, good evening, my tribe. I always ask my higher self to guide me, protect my house, and to always help me to remain in alignment. Always help me to remain in alignment and to be in great relationship with my higher self. In the Patreon community, I can probably do native tongue, but out of respect for the traditions, I can't say it publicly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Malachi. I always appreciate you for letting me share your platform. Thank you.
Most definitely. You know, one of the things that we grow up with and we have grown up with, possibly, and sometimes we can maybe run away from it. I know I have. But I think there's a way that we can re-engage with and understand the words and the power. And that's within reading and prayer.
Yeah, that's universal.
So I have one for the sacred.
Okay.
That I pulled out the archives and worked on, and we'll do this real quick. Divine intelligence within me. The breath that illuminates all life. The source behind names, behind doctrines. I return to you, not to beg, but to remember. I silence the noise of fear. I release what has been holding sacred. Old beliefs, survival stories, in the inheritance of all shame. I lay them down at the altar of awareness and consciousness. I now hold in all sacred, the sacred breath, Sacred is my body, flawed and divine. Sacred in this moment, even when it aches. Because you are here in all of it. Not above me, not beyond me, but within me. I ask that you rewire the mind, reconstruct the truth I bury under the programming. Let every cell that vibrates within the knowing that I was never broken. You were never broken. You were never abandoned. You were never unworthy. I claim the right to walk in love without fear. I reclaim the power to speak life in the dead places. I choose to see clearly and to serve boldly. I'm not here to escape this world, but I am here that we may awaken in it, to lift the veil, to carry the light into the systems, to the divine feminine and the midwife of this reality. So be it. And so we rise, not an eagle, but in essence, whole, healed, home. I say, amen.
I shall.
And so be it.
Yes. Yay. Yeah. I'm going to get like you one day, be like the master meditator. You be having the best meditation.
A lot of it is just, it pours out of you when you be it.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
When you be it, it pours out. Well, cool. Any last words that we have here?
No, I just want to thank everybody. I see so many of my TFC family in the building. I think, Laura, I see you. And I put my contact information for anybody that wanted to connect with me on social media because somebody did ask. And we tried tonight, since I was not working the comments, to try to have the comments rolling. So even though we didn't get a chance to personally greet everybody, we wanted to make sure everybody was seen and visible for the audience. Hold on. I'm gonna switch my hat now and go back to being director of operations for a second. Hold on. Give me a second, please. Give me 1 second. What we do here, like I said, we are not doing it for followers, but we do it so that everybody can become their best authentic self. But there are costs associated with doing this, the software, things alone. So let's see. That's the Cash App from Malachi. Okay. Miss Brenda, if you look at the picture of DS on YouTube, you'll see a young lady with this little mole like this, and my hair is out with a little flip, with a little. That's me. That's me. You can also connect with me on Instagram if you have Instagram. I think the Instagram might have a link to my Facebook as well.
And if you connect it to anything of mine,
yeah, I'll find you.
Or Instagram, Deidre's have access to all my stuff. So.
You just done told the whole world. You just done told everybody. Lord Jesus. Just tell all your business.
Man.
I mean, look. No, you didn't. No, you didn't, Miss Marina. You know that's a trigger. That's a trigger. As much as Malachi ain't no pastor. But we'll have more conversations like these, guys. These are the kind of conversations we want everybody to be their fully actualized selves. And again, this isn't about followers, because I don't want you to be me. You don't want to be me. You don't want to go through what I went through. You want to embrace the journey that you've been through and become the best you. So I'm always going to push you to be your best self, because this ain't we're not a church over here where you want to, everybody follow the pastor and ask the pastor what to do. No, we want you to be the best you. And so that's why we do what we do. And for the Patreon community, oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I see you quite often. Thank you so much. Please catch the replay. And for those of you that are in the community, isn't this Saturday one of our Saturdays? Yeah, it's one of our Saturday sessions. So if you want to join us in the Patreon community and have, we have designated spaces, a Zoom, and we go a little deeper and hold space for one another and talk about deeper things if necessary. Oh, I see. No, that is true. He does, definitely. And the way my Wi-Fi crashed just before I got ready to come on the stage let me know that CDP was in. I was like, really? I was like, I'm gonna have to restart my whole router. I'll be back. Cause yeah, it's been one of those days. But please join us if you can this Saturday if you're in our Patreon community, 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. And then next week will be the debut of Beyond Belief.
Oh, yeah.
It's next. Yeah. It's a week from today. So you'll start seeing promos and all that wonderful jazz. Yeah. And Coach will actually be having a couple of radio interviews that we'll be making sure you guys can see and stream live. So working hard. And then July's coming up and we're going to have Bishop Avi Penhollow and Keith Giles come back with us because they've got some exciting new things. So we're rocking and rolling here in the Expanded Consciousness community. So thank you all. It's late. I know it's late for a lot of us, but thank you so much for being here tonight. Okay, I'm back to being just a guest tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Miss D. Yes, you're gonna see some stuff. I'm really getting it finalized on the record, and yeah, it's coming together. It's really coming together, and it's fun. It's funny because I may take a break and not listen to it, and then whenever I go back to it, I'm like, wow, this is good. Like, I enjoy listening to this myself. Like, it's amazing when you can do something, but then you go back, you're like, wait a minute. I like this. I need to listen to this. So I can't wait until it's all put together and then you can just play it and put it in and listen to it all at the same time. So anyways, all right, folks. I think we're good. Yeah, Miss Celeste. Most definitely.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Be well. Take good care of yourselves. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Becomes your fate. Feel it now, don't hesitate. You don't chase, you don't seek, you become what you believe. The feeling is the secret.